Hello, everyone. I'm Deborah Cleland from Thrive. For those of you who haven't been a part of our conversations before, we are a parent-led organization and we support families who have children who are deaf or hard of hearing. And really, we just stand for the full flourishing of all children who are deaf or hard of hearing in South Africa. And today I have with me two very special and very inspiring ladies, Nelisiwe Khanyile and Mala Perumal. And we are going to be today discussing a topic that I feel like it's really close to my heart, and I feel like it's something that probably every family or child or adult who is deaf or hard of hearing grapples with at some point. And I feel that it's really important for us to talk about this and to bring awareness, because really at the end of the day, that is what brings societal change. So today we're going to be talking about the topic of social stigma. Welcome, Nelly and Marla. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So, ladies, I'm just going to start asking. Hey, Nelly. I'm going to start asking you both just a little bit about, just to give me an outline of your story. So, you are both parents of children who are deaf, and I would just love for you to start by sharing just a summary of that journey. Marla, do you want to start?
So hi everyone, hi Debbie, hi Nelly. My name is Mala, and my son is deaf. My son Sisheng is now 24 years old, and my journey with raising a deaf child started all the way back in 1999, I think, yeah. It was that long ago. And I just noticed that, he was delayed in speech, and, obviously you get everyone around you that tells you, you're being a bit paranoid, and, boys are naturally late in developing and speaking, so, not to worry too much about it. But, with moms, you have this instinct that just nags at you that, something is not altogether, the norm. And so you want to take it further. And I did consult with many, specialists and things like that. And who also, just told me, nothing's wrong, everything's fine, just, speak to him and he'll be fine. But of course, nothing was happening, and inside of me, I did not, feel very good. And then I took it further, and I actually tried to get him tested. And at the age of 2.5, he was diagnosed with profound hearing loss. And naturally, that just threw my world upside down, topsy-turvy. Did not know anything about deafness, deaf culture, has never met a deaf person, did not know what to expect. And, we grow up with this one idea of, what a deaf person is, and I did not want that for my child. But as time went on, we began our journey at a formal school at Fulton, and that's when I discovered I was actually not alone. There was no support actually in those days, so it was really difficult. And I discovered, other moms and other kids who were deaf, and this whole new world opened up for us. We then went on Couple Moms, who I'm very close friends with right up until today. We formed our own little support group, very informal, just sharing this, ideas, sharing our journeys. and just trying to give our kids what we thought and felt was the best, start in life possible. Yeah, and it wasn't a very easy journey. There were lots of hurdles to overcome, lots of challenges, but in that there was lots of joys. You learn a lot about yourself as a parent. You learn a lot about your child. You develop this beautiful bond with them. And for me personally, I feel that if my child, wasn't deaf, he would not be who he is today, and that is a really wonderful gentleman, very kind, very caring, very compassionate. He went on to complete his matric at Fulton, and as of this year, he just graduated with his diploma in IT from Belgium campus, and he's currently working at the campus as well. Yeah, and I just love him to bits. I wouldn't change anything that I went through, including all those challenges, because those things make you strong, make you who you are today. And yeah.
Wonderful.
That's my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, Marla, thank you so much. I always love to hear you talk about your son. As you can see, it always makes me feel emotional, and I think it's a beautiful story. So thank you for that. And Nelly, would you please give us just a brief outline of your journey as a parent of a child who is deaf?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nelisiwe Khanyile. Thank you for welcoming me into this meeting. I'm a mother of 5 children. 4 are my biological children, and the 5th is adopted child. She's the one that is deaf or hard of hearing. When I find out that she was deaf, it was very hard for me because I was busy looking for her parent, which abandoned her with me while she was 3 months. So for me to look for her family, it didn't. I didn't have luck to find them. And then she has no citizen in South Africa. That was my first big challenge. While I was looking for that first big challenge, and then at the age of 2, I noticed that now there is something that is not going well with this child, because she could cry so loudly for minor thing. And then I said, no, let me take her to hospital. I had to take her to hospital, and then it's where I found out that she was bilaterally deaf. And all those English words was completely ununderstandable for me, because these biological terminology, I wish they were telling me in a Zulu language which I would understand. I've just stared at the audiology when she told me that bilaterally deaf. I said, what's that? And she tried to explain to me, and I was confused, because now I was doubling the problem, busy looking for this child parent, busy trying to sort her citizens out, which was not solvable. And then now this deafness came to my family. When I went back home, I was totally blank. I don't know how I get home. And I explained it to my daughter. She was very young, but she came up with a very intelligent idea, because she gave me hope. She just said, Ma, they didn't understand. Hannah is not deaf. We denied it. And myself too, I also denied it. I took my phone. I tried to look for help, because it was my first time to hear about a deaf person. Yes, I used to see them moving hands, but I didn't know what way they were moving hands. I didn't know it was a communication. So our first challenge was communication. The communication was very, very, very challenging us, because we didn't even know how to tell her that we love her, how to find out that she needs food. But with motherly experience which God has given us, we understood if she was not well. We understood if she wanted food, wanted something to drink. And then my journey started from there. I forgot about looking for her parents. Now I focus in this deafness. After a week or so, it's when my love with this child become more and more, because I saw that I'm the only one to just give her support in any way I can do. She's a big girl now. She's 11 years old. She's attending the school for Batinda School for Deaf. But still, our journey is not easy because we have to listen to them. We have to look at them when they are telling us anything. And worst part, our sign language as parents are not good as the children. So each and everything we are doing, we have to be more, we have to put more effort for us to listen to how do they feel, what do they want. All those things are the challenges for us. Even though I have a basic in sign language, yes, and she helps me. She's my teacher, but still, I have more challenges. So for me to raise a deaf child or a child with a hard of hearing, it's challenging you, and it gives you the opportunity to learn more things each and every day. But I'm happy at least because I can hear her, we can communicate, we tease each other. From where I started, I feel joy. I take myself like a strong parent, because now I know to raise a hearing child and raise a deaf child at the same time, and it's produced something different. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nelly. It's such an inspirational story, and for me, it's just one filled with hope. So I could hear your story again and again and again, and thank you for sharing it with us. Yeah, I mean, I think parenting a deaf child really forces us to be deliberate in our parenting, doesn't it? It really gives us, actually the opportunity to step back and to think about how we are going to parent. And I think that's a fabulous gift. Nelly, I'm just going to go back to you and ask you, so what is your understanding of what stigma actually is?
Okay. It's when my child being isolated from other children in the society because of well-being. For instance, I remember one day when I sent my child to a mainstream school. It was not easy because I didn't know even about deaf schools, so I had to keep her in a mainstream school. For a week, she went to the school. She was happy, looking forward for anything that may happen at school. But the second week, she didn't want to go to school. And it was difficult for me because of the language barrier. I wanted to know what is wrong, but because of the communication, it was hard. So I had to go to the teachers and ask them what was wrong. They said, no, everything is just fine. Oh, wow. I cannot understand that. Because if you're a parent, you will see your child if your child is happy. You can see your child if your child is not happy. I said, okay. I went back home. While I was in the house, I said, no ways. Let me not just sit. Let me go back and fetch my child. I went to the school. I fed the child. I came to my home. I said, please. I just gave her something, to calm her down. And then I gave her the paper to draw what she was doing at school. She drew herself sitting in the corner, and she drew the children sitting together. And then she pointed that it was her. And I was fuming angry. I went back to the teachers to ask them, is there any problem which my child is giving you? They said, no, everything is good. Oh God, why they can tell me that everything is good, what I can see that nothing is good at all. So that was the first case. So I had to take her out from the school. I said, no ways, let me just take this child out of school, because I can see now it will not end up by being deaf for her. She will be crazy. Nobody was giving me correct information. So I was like a crazy mother who's just provoking the teachers at school because everything was good. I feel like laughing because we had to learn many things.
When you think back now, you can laugh at yourself. And
I feel like laughing. I'm thinking, oh no, okay, that was good, but it was not good at all. And other day, after I found the school at Batinda School for Deaf, the crowd of children and the mother, came walking to my house. They knocked. Okay, hello, how are you? They said, we are fine. Is this Hannah's house? I said, yes, it is. Oh, yes, I've just sent my child to school shop, and Hannah stole the children from my child. I said, Hannah, yes. And my brother stood up from the room. She came straight to the house. Said, where is Hannah? Because it's been 3 months now, and Hannah is in boarding school. Did she came maybe last night, or, we were confused as a family. And that woman stood and stared at us. Said, you said Hannah stole the children while I sent you to shop. The tears fall like a rainfall to my face because I felt like chowing somebody. It's where I noticed how my child was being isolated from the society, but I had to calm down because I was the only one who had a problem. I had to go to each and every neighbors and try to teach them that she's the only one who's different in that area. Can they please bear with me to understand her? Now, this is a big lie coming from my home, of which it was happening all the time. So even myself, I was blaming myself that, okay, I didn't do enough to protect my child. But anyway, it was my journey. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nelly. We have spoken in the past so much about this this topic of isolation, and how much a deaf child can experience that, and how excruciating it actually is for a human being to experience that. Yeah, and Marla, so also to you, what is your understanding of what stigma is?
Well, now that we understand it better because of what we've been through with our kids, it's definitely something negative. And even like, when we first started off the journey and we asked for people's, help to try and discover what is it that we're dealing with, what is it that's happening. And it's all that, it's that people being oblivious to what's current, what's in front of them, people not accepting, and then in turn not allowing us to accept it, oblivious to our concerns as parents, just ignoring it and putting it aside. Maybe it's just not like stating the obvious because they feel that they're going to offend us, in some manner. And like for instance with the deaf, they're perceived as deaf and dumb, and that is what we grew up with. That is a huge stigma, and I think a lot of people in every different facet, in every culture experience. And that's what we grow up with. And we feel they're not normal, we feel they're abnormal. And then, they get defined, whether, you're autistic, whether you are cerebral palsy, whether you are multiple disability, you are viewed as your disability first, and then as a person second, if at all, and I'm sure we've all experienced that. I'm sure each parent has experienced that. And, like, as well, it's synonymous with, myths and misconceptions, because people don't understand. People would rather just easily believe that myth and believe that misconception than acknowledging, what is actually there in front of you. And, it becomes our job as parents now to alleviate that, to break down those barriers, to make sure that people understand they are just people. They're people, they're different. And I mean, which person is not different from the other? I'm different from you, you're different from me, from the next to the next. And we all have our strengths, we all have our abilities and capabilities, which are things that you need to focus on. And those negative attitudes, people then discriminate and then want to put labels on, rather than, see the famous saying, see the ability, not the disability.
Yeah, thank you both so much for those comments. I actually did a sort of just a Google search on the definition of stigma. And what I actually came back with is that it is a mark of disgrace. You know, which really, you know, it made me really catch my breath, and I thought that was, you know, what an awful thing to have. But so many of our families and our children face this, especially in different cultural contexts. You know, and I think it's just synonymous with, you know, words like shame and lack, and you know, lack of worth, and not being enough, not being whole, you know, things like that, and the quite extreme prejudice and discrimination that comes along with that. And then also, nearly as you say, then leads to things like being isolated and not accepted in society. Yeah, so thank you, ladies. Marla, have you in your journey personally experienced social stigma?
Yeah, definitely. And the one, well, the two aspects that stick out, you know, with the disgrace is that you feel ashamed. You feel ashamed that your child is not normal. You feel ashamed that how is society going to view them? You know, how are you going to, you know, break this news out to your family? Because you want to be accepted, and you want your kids to be accepted. Anything below normal is not going to cut it, you know, so to speak. So I experienced that, and it was very hard, you know, and then religion comes into play as well. You know, religion is very sought subject, but it came into play because people believe that, you know, if you change, you know, your religious beliefs, your child will get healed. Your child will be hearing. Your child will not be deaf. And as a first-time mom, I went with everything that people told me, because you so desperately want to hang on and want to make your child whole and normal and accepted, that you're willing to do anything, because you denied, you know, no problem.
Sorry, everyone, we had a slight technical glitch there. Marla, could you just pick up then on what you were saying about your experiences of personal stigma along your journey?
Of course. So it was also made to feel, you know, like my child, because he was now diagnosed as being deaf, he was broken, he wasn't whole, he needed to be fixed. And then people also, maybe unintentionally, they make you feel inadequate as, you know, a parent, and that, you know, itself is a stigma. And you know, like sometimes when you out shopping, or you out, you know, somewhere, and you suddenly see people watch us, you know, we're signing, and I'm signing to my son, and stuff like that. They look at you strange, and they'll come up to you, and they would ask you, you know, what's wrong with him, and stuff like that. And you know, you explain, because you want to make people aware and create awareness and change the whole you know, outlook of people. And they'll, and when they hear it, they'll you know, they'll tell you, oh, shame, but he's so handsome, you know. You'd always get that, oh, shame. And I feel, you know, there's no need to feel, you know, ashamed. You know, and I'm happy with my child, and so those are basically, you know, all the experience that of stigma that I've had.
We've also certainly had that of shame, and you know, I really, in my head, I'm thinking, there ain't no shame here, don't worry about us, because our family certainly has no shame over it, and certainly my daughter is hugely proud of the fact that she's deaf. I've often asked her if she would, if she could change to be hearing or choose to stay deaf, what would she choose? And she always says, no, Mom. She's almost, why are you asking me that? She's so happy in her skin as a deaf child. and her identity as a deaf person, and certainly so am I, and our family and I wouldn't change that for anything, even if I could. But we've definitely had that shame. And I always just, treat it with a smile, and then I think as people see her more, they realize there's certainly no lack of worth, in that child, which is great. Nelly, I know you touched on it earlier, but do you want to add anything around how you've experienced stigma in your journey of parenting a deaf child?
Oh yes, Deborah. In our community, it's quite different, maybe to the other community. So we have challenges each and every time. You go to the clinic, you'll find out there is a whole lot of children in the hall, which are hearing children, and you are only the one parent with a child who is wearing hearing aids. That brings another stigma to you, because all these 100 people, others will just give you a silence message, others will confront you, others will tell you their views, like going to a sangoma, going to this, doing to this, maybe you never do something right, maybe it's okay. So you go out to the community prepared to say, okay, now I'm going out, I wonder what is next today. So it gave us as parents to be strong, to change our perception. Like you change, because it teaches you to be calm and understand. Because when they're talking to you and maybe you're trying to give them any information, no, that is not right. Just listen to them. Listen to them. And the worst part of it, when you get home, it's where the tears fall into the face, to think of each and every word, from the taxis, buses, clinics, and then you said, you know what, Lord, you know that I'll be the strong for this journey. So it's always happened, but at the same time, it gave us hope and it made us strong.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Nelly. Thank you. And then Marla, back to you. I'm interested to know, what do you think we can do as individuals to help to shift this whole societal view of the stigma around a deaf or disabled child?
So the one big word is awareness. Awareness, awareness, awareness. Create as much of it as possible. And thank goodness, with modern technology, we've got so much of platforms that at our disposal, that we could utilize in creating awareness. And wherever you're going, speaking to people about it, whether it's formally or informally. Just find as many avenues that you could utilize, engage with people, and state the facts. Be totally blunt about it, stating facts. Even like encouraging support groups. So many moms out there, when they began with the journey, they were a nobody. They were all alone. But when I look at a lot of them, I mean, wow, they've really taken it on. They've really advocated for the kids, and this is what it does to you as well. It changes you in that perspective. So creating as much awareness as possible, brainstorming ideas further on, how we can continue with it, how we can break down barriers, and also creating inclusion for people to know that what, the deaf, the kids who are autistic, CP, they just need to be loved. They just need to be included. And like with this month, it's Deaf Awareness Month. So every day on my status, I'm sharing stuff about deaf awareness, and just to create as much awareness as possible, so people know the only thing with the deaf is that they can't hear, but they can do everything else. And I strongly believe with my journey, I've proved that.
Absolutely.
And I'm extremely proud of my son and everything that he's achieved, and together as a family with my husband, with my daughter and my extended family, of how much we have done to get into where he is. So it's all about awareness, and definitely things have changed, come a long way from the last 20 years. The wheels are turning a bit slowly, but it's turning. And it's up to us, especially as moms, to ensure that it turns just a little bit faster, but to keep it going, and just creating awareness as much as possible.
Yeah, thanks, Marla. I think that's absolutely the key thing. It's probably the first thing I would have said as well, is the awareness, and whether that's going into your child's school, if they're not in a school for the deaf, and explaining to the entire school, to their class, to their teacher, what does it mean to be a deaf child? What are the areas of struggle? What are the great things? How exactly is that child different to all the other children? I mean, I always struggle to understand, because I love diversity and I love people who are different to me, and I am quite embracing of different cultures. I find it really strange that most people are not accepting of people who are different to them. And that is actually the number one reason why children get bullied. It's because they're different.
Yes.
I find that quite difficult to understand, but certainly that's stigma. It's anybody who is different from the norm is some sort of stigma. And Nelly, you also touched on it earlier in one of your comments around how you had gone to your neighbors in your neighborhood and explained to them, this is my child, she's deaf, this is what that means. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that, or explain any other situations you've been in, or what do you think we can do as parents, as moms, as individuals to help to really surge with that change in society towards stigmatizing disability?
Okay, Deborah. As Mana said, that awareness is the first key. And I'm happy that my neighbors understand my child and they love her. They even invite her. And she has that spirit, because she engaged well with the talking children. And I was happy on a Heritage Day when they come to ask her to go with them to do the Zulu dance. And I was a little bit confused to say, okay, how does she follow the rhythm? Wow, she's a good dancer. So even the friend community, they called her when they have some events. It's changed everything. They played with her so friendly. And amazing part, when they have birthday parties, they invite her, they sing a song, and she sang. And they are willing to learn, especially my close neighbor's daughter. She is fluent in sign language. She even beats me because she always played with her, which is an opportunity for the hearing child to learn the sign language for free. So, but it's all about the family of the hard of hearing child to calm down. Because if I was maybe cheeky with the neighbors, or trying to to fight with them, they wouldn't understand. So awareness is more important. And another thing, which is amazing, a hard of hearing child is born by the hearing families. So you will never know.
Very often.
We didn't know that one of the day we will be sitting with a hard of hearing child. Even though my situation is difficult, because as I said before earlier on, that I'm still battling about the child citizenship part. I say to myself, South Africa, it's very hard to deal with those things, but I cannot throw her anyway. I cannot give up on her. I cannot do anything negative to her. She's my baby now. In such a way that even when her parents claim, it will be a hard situation for me, maybe to be separated with her. But anyway, at the end of the day, they are the parents. So I cannot hold it to myself. Only thing that I said to myself, I said, I will take care of you, my sweetheart, as long as you are living with my family. So
yeah, wonderful. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. You know, I think just what you both touched on is actually, it doesn't always serve us to be defensive with people who don't understand our children, or who come with the kind of the oh shame and that air of, you know, that they're judging and discriminating and they are slightly prejudiced against your child or your family or whatever it may be. It doesn't always serve us to be defensive. It actually serves us to raise awareness, and people aren't going to be willing to receive that information if there's a rift. So we need to be the agents to break down the divide. And actually, to any hearing people or people who don't know other deaf people or disabled people at all we really ask is that you be willing to be open to learn about our children. And that's the key, it's for everybody to be willing to learn. And I think once we understand, and there's not all this uncertainty and difference, I think that goes a long way to breaking down barriers between other people and even, you know, other cultures, certainly. So thank you both so much for being so open in your sharing and you know, being willing to have these conversations that, you know, they can sometimes you know, make us feel vulnerable, but it really, you know, this is one of the things we do to raise awareness so that people really understand what the journey's like and really understand that there's really no need for the oh shames and all of that. Yes. So I think just from my part, to add one more thing is that I think you know, one of the things we can do is really to be aware of the language that we use. So you know, just one of the things is when my daughter got her hearing aids, there was a little booklet that she got, and it was a story about this little character who had this hearing loss. And I was just very aware that some of the language that was used in there was very much around using words like impairment and words like loss and words like broken, which certainly to those people who have strong deaf culture, those words are actually very offensive to a lot of deaf people. And certainly just by changing the language can also go a long way. And if you're a professional, an audiologist, a speech therapist, you know, just a word to you to say that the language that we use really makes a big difference in terms of not describing a child as impaired, because that suggests that they're impaired, when certainly we all know that they're not impaired. They just require a different type of support to another child. Yeah, so thank you so much, both of you, for your time and for engaging so openly and so honestly today. I love chatting to both of you any time of the day. Great.
Thanks, Devi. Thanks so much for having us and creating this platform for awareness for fellow parents, because there's so many parents out there that are so lost, and sometimes all they just need is you know, just a helping hand, you know, a guiding hand, just somebody to sit and listen to them openly, and you know, just to be there with them to walk the journey. So if anything, I hope this conversation, you know, creates some kind of awareness. Parents would know that, you know, they're definitely not alone, and that there's always help, there's always support out there, and all they have to do is just reach out. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Marla. I agree. Thank you. And thank you, Nelly. Thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.